Hello. As we promised you last week, we are at the CZI conference, which is being held in Harare. And this week, I don't have to tell you not to take us seriously, because we are talking to people that actually know what they're talking about. And we're going to kick off that discussion with Kurai, the president of the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries. We are going to get him to share some of his insights, give us an idea of what the conference is about, and what their visions and aspirations as the leadership of CZI is. And of course, I've got my two usual numbnuts next to me, who will probably interject and challenge him on one or two things. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, you're looking particularly dapper.
Because he looks like you, right?
I copied from you. All what is left is the butter.
Well done, well done.
Thank you.
I think it speaks volumes about CZI.
That they're
That they dress like you.
Cut off blood circulation.
That they're serious. You know, I like that.
It's
He's
only
also
for this show, by the way.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And what are you drinking?
I would have rooibos tea.
Robust tea.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got another teacher, yeah? I think we can have the robust
Oh! And while they're serving the tea, Rufaro, what are you having?
Today I'm having white wine, Chenin Blanc from South African winery. The selection here is rather limited, but as a Zimbabwean, Twitter Ziripo. So I'm having a dry white wine today.
All right. And Tinashe, what are you drinking?
Okay, I'm having Tanganda tea, and I think going with the theme, I love it. So yeah, going local.
Supporting local industry.
Supporting local industries. That's what we need to do.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Nice.
And I'm going back to our roots. Castle Light, can't go wrong with that, and supporting local industry. So maybe to kick off, I'll pour some tea for you. Oh, will you do that, Rufaro?
Thank you.
But while Rufaro is doing that, maybe you can tell us a little bit about this year's theme, what's inspired it.
Thank you. Obviously, this year, this Congress is happening after a 2-year hiatus because of the COVID. So
Were you vaccinated, by the way?
Of course I was. Yeah, fully vaccinated.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So obviously, again, on the background of government has come in with a new vision for the country, which they call towards an empowered and prosperous upper middle income society by 2030.
You memorize that? I guess it comes with the office. Sorry, anyway, carry on.
Of course. So obviously, for that to be realized, there is a role that industry must play for that to become a reality. So instead of coming with our own, we just say let's fit into that and be part of that developmental agenda process. And we came up with our own. We call it industrial transformation, similarly towards an upper middle income industry for an upper middle income economy. So this is how we then decided to come up with this Congress theme, obviously driven by the position of the government. Yes, our congresses happen every year if things are normal. So this one, if you link into the government developmental agenda, this is a 10-year program. So as we go along every year, we'll have to review how far are we in supporting that program and tweak it a little bit just to follow into the progress that the government will be making and ourselves, assessing ourselves as well.
Okay. And we're already 1 year in.
That's correct.
And
if you were in the meeting, I actually said it's unfortunately coming already. We are now left with 9 years to 2030. So 1 year is gone, and we are starting to talk about that process now. It should have happened a year ago, but because of other issues, we were not able to meet.
Rufaro, I know you've got a question you're dying to ask, especially since he's outlined the genesis of the theme for this year's?
So maybe to start off with, I can ask, what are you optimistic about this vision for 2030 in terms of our capacity to actually achieve it, and from what you're seeing on the ground as a business person in your own right and interacting with your colleagues here today? Are you optimistic, or what's your view?
The vision in itself, there is nothing wrong with it in aspiring to be there by such time. I've got no doubt that it's a noble statement to make, and it's a good statement to make for Zimbabwe. Not only for industry, but for all the people of Zimbabwe. In terms of saying, is it really achievable? Am I, as a person, optimistic about it? I'm optimistic on condition. There are certain things that obviously have got to be done.
This is what we want to hear.
Yeah, and there are so many of them.
Maybe the top three.
Obviously, we can break them into the immediate issues that need to be addressed right now. There are those that will address in the medium term and as we go along. The immediate, which are the topical issues, obviously, it's macroeconomic stability. The economy is not stable. The current question is an issue. It's a big issue today, is there. Infrastructure itself to support business activity, it's a serious issue. The regulatory environment currently is also a big issue, and the ease of doing business. So before we can start doing a lot of other things, we need to retire those issues, meaning they need to be addressed first.
But surely this will take 10 years. When will we have time left to pursue the vision?
I don't think so. I don't agree that the issues I've listed will take 10 years to address.
So I want to call attention to a press statement that the CZI issued a few weeks ago, and I thought that was very courageous and audacious. You know, where you raised some issues concerning concerning the currency matter. You know, around the auction being faithful to its initial aspirations of actually being an auction. So firstly, I want to commend you as CZI for actually...
You've got something positive to say?
Thank you.
Wait for it.
For you know, putting the hand up and, you know, raising an important issue. Since you issued that statement and subsequently engaged your partners in government, what do you think that they're alive to the importance of the issue and that we're going to make meaningful progress?
In terms of the authorities understanding the issues as we presented them, I think they do understand. In terms of willingness to act on our recommendations, do I know that they are willing to act on our recommendations? I cannot speak for them, but I can take the word that they tell us.
But what are the indications you're getting at your members? What's the feedback from your members?
Our members are reporting back to us to say, while there are small steps in improvement, there are still issues that need to be addressed. That's the report we are getting so far. We are still engaging the authorities to say, but this is what we have flagged to you, we have indicated to you, this is the path we think will take us forward. Are they acting on it in small steps? That's what I can say.
So my question is around post-COVID. You know, COVID in the last 2 years, more or less, industry has been disrupted around the world. But what's interesting about CZI is capacity utilization has actually increased, I think, from 40% to around 60%. What do you think, what's the major driver of that capacity utilization from your members?
Just to correct you, the number, actually, when we did it in the last quarter, it was 47%. Okay. The projection is 61% by year end.
Okay.
We haven't done the numbers yet.
All right. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a projection.
It's a projection, 61%.
Is a projection.
Yes.
Okay.
But-
What's driving that?
But what is driving that? It's a number of issues. The global supply disruptions, it's actually a positive in certain industries. Some companies have actually benefited from this COVID because with the disruptions in global supply, product coming from Eastern Europe, from South America, from Asia, with the also disruption in logistics, movement of ships and so on, product is not reaching to certain destinations on time. And even in certain areas, production capacities have been affected. I can talk for the business that I actually represent. We actually sell within the SADC region.
Really?
Yeah, and we cannot meet demand. Actually, the problems is the other way around to increase the capacity of the plant.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is a good problem. So it's not only my business. I'm sure there are quite a number of people who have benefited that way. So this has been driving that. But also you find, whilst the people were not going to work, for some reason, in certain product lines, aggregate demand
Increased.
has increased.
How much do you attribute that to the closure of the borders and illicit importations being?
It's a good point actually that you highlight. Yes, product that has been smuggled in or properly coming in because of the restrictions at the border has been making it difficult for certain products to come in. So yes, that has also benefited some of our members. This morning we had the borders are starting to be leak again, product coming in, but I don't think it is at the same scale like pre-COVID levels.
So you're saying consumers were forced to use local
Local
products.
products.
Okay.
That's
And
correct.
with the opening of borders, that
Yes,
might
that
affect,
might
okay.
actually affect some of our businesses negatively. Yeah.
If COVID goes away, borders open, can we compete? Do we have the right machinery? Do we have the right technology? Do we have the capital?
This we have been talking about to say how do we get proper funding for capitalizing our business. It could be retooling, it could be working capital, any of those, or new plant that you need to bring in. We have been talking about innovation this morning, and yes, it could be innovation about new products, but also how do you do better that you are with that which you are currently doing. So all that requires funding. We've engaged the authorities, but we are also going out to talk to other financiers, ADB, African Bank, and so on. But the country risk militates against our effort to reach financial closure. In some of the issues, things just get protracted. But I guess this is a process. As we improve as a country over time, I'm sure maybe these financing options will be unlocked over
Maybe,
time.
How can the diaspora, come in terms of investments? Do you see a role in which the diasporians could play in capitalizing our industries?
It's always a possibility, but as I said earlier, I think capital is very timid sometimes. So depending on the environment, we've got to correct the environment. Even it is our own people out there, they won't come to Zimbabwe just because they were born in Zimbabwe. I'm sure they are looking for a return on their money. So they will look for other investment opportunities in territories where they think they can get better returns on their money.
And it comes back to the 4 or 5 things you said
That's
at the beginning of our discussion.
Yes, those things must be retired as a matter of urgency. Yeah.
President, it's been lovely having you along. We're here for the next 3 days. Maybe we can have a bit more time with you. We've spoken to you largely as the president
Thank you.
of the Confederation today, but it will be good to talk to you again as a business owner and an entrepreneur later on during the week.
We've got a policy day on Friday, so I'm sure with the authorities, they will all be here. So I'm sure I will also be educated in terms of the direction they want to take this country going forward.
We're all looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So that was the president of the CZI, and yeah, you probably should take him seriously. He actually knows what he's talking about. But it's very encouraging to hear him hammer on some of the same themes that we've been hammering on for the past couple of seasons. As promised, we're at the CZI conference, talking to people that actually know what's going on in the economy, not these two numbnuts who are usually talking nonsense over heated shrub juice and fermented grape juice. So we're at the end of the first day, and we've got with us the CEO of the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries, Sekai, who you may remember from a week ago gifting, was it 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
Gifting Tinashe some rather interesting tea that made him hyperactive.
That is
What's
Was
the
that just the
Mutombo
tea,
magic?
or you put something else in there?
There's the magic bit. What
yeah.
magic is
It
that?
is magic, you know.
All right.
Yeah,
That can't be told.
we're not letting him have any more of that.
Oh no, that's bad. He needs it. Now he needs it.
No, it made him very unruly.
Excitable, I would say.
Well, anyway, Sekai, thanks for having us. We're quite excited. This is our first outside broadcast.
And thankfully,
Oh,
she's
wow.
going to join me.
Oh yes, what are you drinking? You can have some wine.
Have some
Yes,
Shinini.
please. Thank you very much.
Why are you
Thank
giving
you.
why are you giving a quarter of a glass?
I think that's the full glass.
We'll ease her into it.
In vino veritas. We want to get her to. No. Thanks for coming onto the show. What's your sense of the first day of the conference?
I think it was a great day. The content was fantastic, and you know, this conference is structured in a building up sort of way. And if you really look at the program, it's got 3 blocks. So we are speaking. The first day was really about innovation, and I think the key question is, what is happening at that intersection of education, business, and industry? Business and policy. It seems if you look at those circles and you put them together, the space where they interact is a very small space, and you would want that space to grow bigger, so that the spaces where they are standalone begins to shrink more and more.
So can you just go back to that? Because I think that's a very important point. Can you explain what you mean when you say it's a small space and you'd like it to be bigger?
So you would want them to be working towards collaborative efforts more than what can I say, maybe break the silos, if you may, and actually recognize that their collaboration is actually what produces the innovation and competitiveness we want, rather than them working business that side, education that side, and maybe policy on the other end.
Yeah, I think innovation is interdisciplinary.
Yes,
You know.
Is there any innovation in this country?
I do believe there is. There is.
Give us an example.
yeah.
Okay, there's Mutombo tea.
Well, it's one an
besides
award,
that?
right?
Besides Mutombo tea.
So there is innovation. You will find it's actually quite interesting because we are redoing the CZI awards, and we have now realized that So one of the awards we are going to be giving is a pace setter award, like first in the market with anything, whether it's a product, it's a service, or
Like Friday drinks.
or it's a technology. Yeah, you guys deserve an award actually.
Oh, thank you.
So as you can see here, I'm sure you saw some product innovations from some of the companies. I saw quite a few new products that are on the market. There's technology innovation as well. I think there are a few companies, maybe not them necessarily creating the technology, but adopting technology, which then actually changes the whole production system in some of the sectors. So innovation is going on, new products are being developed, but I don't believe that there's adequate linkages between all the key players to make sure that the full potential of those innovations is actually realized. and that the commercial value is actually really also realized.
One of the things that's occurred to me, when you speak to that disconnect between policy and the business community, is that there is this distrust of business and free markets, that perhaps we have an agenda as business people that is not aligned to the best interests of the country. So I don't know whether this conference has a plan to address that trust issue, that I think there's a gap between the private sector and the policymakers on a trust basis.
Yes, so one of the things we ought to look at, I know somebody raised the issue about social dialogue, but if you look at the dialogue approach in this country, they've always been problem-based. They're like problem-solving platforms where we believe we have to go and then dialogue around this challenge.
It's reactive.
It's reactive. So it's not vision or aspiration driven, where you are saying as a country we want to get to that end. And I think I do welcome the notion of this Vision 2030, because at least it gives us something that you can actually say, okay, we are talking about an upper middle income economy here. So how can we collaborate to actually achieve that? And then you line up all the elements that need to collaborate towards that, and then you test everything against that actual ultimate aim. Is our monetary policy going to take us there or not?
We like talking about monetary policy.
No, we are not. Is our industrial policy going to take us there? So that we look up to something, and then what it does is, instead of the traditional approaches, it actually helps us to collaborate towards something. That's positive energy for me.
And do you feel like that's happening?
I think that's what we are pushing for. We have been in a dialogue space, and I think mostly it has been problem-based.
Take a sip.
Take a sip.
In fact, don't sip. Take a gulp, and tell us. Okay, so in your view, who's lining up, and who's not? Who's not playing with others?
I think this is being very well received, by the way, by all players. That's what we have seen. And one of the indications, of course, is because today we had universities. You've seen we have NAST coming all the way from Bulawayo. We had MSU coming all the way from the Midlands. We had the University of Zimbabwe. We had government in there. And then if you look at our program, on Friday, we do have that whole lineup of ministers actually coming, and the VP also coming for a discussion. And it's easy to build consensus and to find each other when you're looking at a vision. It's difficult to find that when you're trying to sort of take a diagnostic approach to a challenge, and then you easily find yourselves in a space where you're saying it's because this one was doing this and this one was not doing that. But looking ahead, for me, is the best way to proceed.
So you mentioned the universities were here, and you obviously interface with their products as an employer, as CZI. Your members are employers as well. We used to have a fantastic reputation for great education in this country. What would you say today is the state of our educational sector?
That's a difficult one to comment on, because I don't have, I can't say I've got the right kind of evidence to make that comment, but I'm not sure that we are working with each other in a manner that sort of makes the education sector evolve to be able to meet the demands of an evolving industry and economy. What I've seen in other jurisdictions is that you find a university program actually is run by the university, but there's an advisory board to the program. And that advisory board is private sector. It's the leading practitioners in that area, but from private sector. So that what happens is, at the end of the day, you are able to produce graduates that really respond to the needs of industry, or can advance industry, take it to the next level, rather than just respond to its needs. Yeah.
Well, I think we used to be quite strong in apprenticeship programs and polytechnics. But if you look at the last 30 years, we're not producing as many journeymen and crafts or tradesmen as much as we should. Part of the argument has been industry has not been responsive and generating this graduates and placing people on apprenticeships. What's your reaction to that? That industry has not played its part, its role. I was looking at graduates coming out of Harare Polytechnic with technical skills. It's now down to about 500 students.
Really?
Yeah.
Per annum?
Per annum.
Across all?
Across all programs, like really technical skills, right? Tradesmen skills, it's quite low. And part of the problem has been industry is not funding the polytechnics nor the universities, and that link is just not there anymore.
We do still contribute to ZimDef, as you're aware, and that's what's supposed to fund some of that. But I think I could attribute some of that to the decline in industry. Remember, we had been in a period of protracted decline, and in some instances, companies closed. So I would believe that the capacity of companies to absorb those students and actually to train them was also diminishing with the decline that industry had been experiencing over the years. And also, we have lost quite a few of our tradesmen to overseas markets, as you are aware.
But I want to push you a bit harder, Sekai. This is Friday Drinks. I think you're being a bit...
I thought you were going to be kind.
You
I came here
no,
expecting kindness.
We're kind. We're kind.
It's still very kind, actually.
But I'll go back 2 questions ago, right? You copped out of it and you said, well, you're not qualified to comment on this. But really, come on. You've got graduates and interns coming into your office every year. Do they know what you think they should know? Are they able to do what you think they should be able to do? And if they can't, what do we need to do to fix it?
I'm not a very good person to speak to that, and I'll tell you why. Because I am difficult, I think.
You've been in a business for a while. You've got an expectation of a young accounting student. You've got an expectation of a young...
Or it could be relative. So the sort of graduate you're getting today compared to 20 years ago, would you say there's a fundamental shift? Are they worse or better off?
It's hard because 20 years ago I wasn't sitting where I'm sitting here, so I wasn't evaluating.
Okay,
but
you need to have some more wine and we'll have this discussion again.
But I think the sense I get is that I'm not quite sure we have really moved in terms of we are good students, but we are not generating knowledge. So we are consumers of knowledge. So when you consume knowledge and you are not generating knowledge, you don't add value to whatever you are taking in, so that it then adds value to where you are going.
And then you become stuck in time as well.
Yeah, you get stuck in time. So that's the sense I get, that maybe you think part of it is exposure, but I think really maybe it's the approaches that we have taken maybe are not really... but that's my personal view, but that also could be probably because I just find it difficult to
Well, personal views are all we exchange on Friday Drinks.
they can
and
be
that's why we
personal,
lubricate.
They are influenced views. Yeah, so that's my influenced view.
But tell us, what are you looking forward to the rest of the week?
So I think one of the key features of this Congress is the manufacturing for manufacturing, and I think it will speak to innovation as well. Tomorrow we've started to look at the manufacturing sector and the things that we are importing. So you find that we've got a disappearing middle in manufacturing, where we've got raw materials here at the bottom, and then the intermediate goods, we are importing all of them, and then we are only manufacturing for the consumer. So this manufacturing here, where maybe you need to manufacture a piece of metal for the next person to use in another production process, is not there. And it's a significant size of the industry, and that's no longer here. But what it means also is that, one, we are heavily reliant on imports. Two, we are not participating in the global value chains or in the regional value chains because we are not producing those little things. We are just producing end products that are ready for the consumer. So that's one of the key things we have tomorrow. And we also have, we've got a guy coming out of South Africa. He's Zimbabwean. You know, we've exported a lot of Zimbabweans.
It's our primary
good,
export.
good,
About a quarter of our population.
yeah. So he's coming here to also talk to us about the initiatives they have there to try and sort of capacitate local manufacturing by venturing into tool making for the local industry. And we do have a presentation on futures, you know, futures strategies in light of COVID, you know, unknown futures that we are looking at. How do you map scenarios? How do you move to sort of non-static SWOT analysis-based strategic planning to more sort of scenario-based planning where you're trying to unravel a possible future and then create strategies for it? And then, of course, the big day is the policy discussion day that we have on Friday.
Yeah, Friday is a good day. You should lubricate it with lots of beverages.
You should.
Well, speaking of lubrication, she's got a cocktail to get ready for, I understand. This evening.
Yes,
So-
and you are invited.
Oh,
Thank you.
we,
Okay.
you know, we'll never turn down an invitation to a cocktail. Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
As I said, this is one discussion you probably should take seriously because we've got people that know what they're talking about speaking. There you have it. We've had Sekai, the CEO of CZI. We hope to have you again.
It wasn't
Later
as
in the
bad,
week.
right?
No, you were actually kind.
And by the way,
He's
you,
into it.
Yeah.
and you look fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Fabulous in red.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And you all look fantastic too.
Well, no, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to be kind.
He looks like a professor.
A nutty one. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
And we continue at the CZI Congress. We've managed to pull in the MC, who is legendary broadcaster Patrick Kariwo.
Illustrious.
I don't know about
Illustrious.
I don't know about legendary so much.
So legendary, it's about to rain because we have him on the show.
What can I say? But clearly you can see that I'm in the wrong company. Guys have had 3 or 4.
Well, what are you drinking? You look like you're having a beer there.
It is actually. I thought I'd graduate
Ginger ale.
No, we don't believe
in
you.
anticipation of the cocktail this evening.
Nah,
How am I doing so
no,
far?
no.
Yeah. You see, people who
No, we
want
know.
to cut blood flow to their brain, like Tinashe, seem not to do well with the tipple. They tend to drink the more boring stuff.
I don't know about boring.
Well, Ginger
You're having
ale,
tea and he's having
tea.
ginger ale.
These are the least interesting drinks on the table.
I mean, on a boring day, I'm having a Castle Light.
that he's boring.
No, he's certainly not boring.
Sounds to me like a case of too much blood in the alcohol stream.
So
Anyway, so Patrick, you've been running this this show for the last few hours.
This would be true.
Tell us about it. What have you seen? The good, the bad, the ugly?
Well, to be honest, it's mostly good. I have confirmed for myself that CZI really is the pinnacle in terms of the voices that represent Zim industry. Just the sheer collection of executive representation is remarkable. I have to say that. And it was well put together. The program was relevant and incisive. So yeah, my hope is that it will generate the desired results. I mean, as you know, CZI is distinct because it is probably the oldest association of its kind. It was initially a collection of manufacturing players, and it's morphed over time to include the other players that have since come into business. So what we see here really is a representation of that history and the influence that they generate.
Tell us a bit about what they talked about.
clearly they're paying him enough.
Of course, they're paying him. I'm just wondering what his other clients will think about this. But
This is what you get for 7 children. You've got to be paid.
you got 7 kids.
7 kids.
Yeah, what can I say? I'm a productive guy.
My kind of man.
Is that okay with you?
Anyway,
To you.
Thank you.
interesting learnings today.
Yes. I'll tell you what was really interesting for me was having the chief executive officer representing Swedish business and the lessons that the Swedish have learned and that promoted their own re-entry, if you will, into global business to become the force that they are. That was instructive.
Okay, what did she say or he say?
Well, it's essentially about best practice. There's clearly a commitment to doing things a particular way, and moreover, to following through. The Swedes, at least from what I see and what I hear, don't just talk. They talk about it, they do it.
We like conferences.
Sorry?
We like conferences.
We like conferences, but we are challenged for doing. We are challenged for doing.
Well,
I'm sure
it
you would
also
support
starts with how you dress. You know,
Are you really
I
going to
would
go
say.
there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look at this man.
So, okay, we're not
Okay.
going to go down that rabbit hole. What I want to get a sense from you is, apart from being MC, you obviously spent a bunch of time interacting with the actual delegates and, you know, chit-chatting with them here and there. What sense do you get from, you know, in terms of the mood of business people in this country? Are they optimistic? Are they excited about 2022? Or they're all a little bit depressed by some of the macroeconomic challenges that we have?
On the contrary, and in fact, I would sum it up the way one of the executives summed it up. And his words, his exact words were, "We are in a positive, feel-good moment."
Really?
Yes, really. And I'll tell you why that's important. Because yes, we clearly have no shortage of bad news. And I think there is a case for the legacy and what we are trying to overcome. This clearly is a time thing. But having said that, I think that there's a lot to our story that is not necessarily being communicated. There are a lot of good things out there. And I think the positives would have to include the rise in exports, the positive actions being taken by government to advance this whole economic situation. I don't know if any of you listened to the Honourable Minister of Industry and Commerce, Sekai. She was direct. She acknowledged the bad and at the same time expressed what I would have to describe as an appetite to get to work. I found that refreshing. Yeah. So look, it's not all good, but it's not easy.
Every
Change,
cloud has a silver lining.
there you go. And change is not easy. I mean, I think we're clearly battling some entrenched motives, interests. And it's going to take some time getting around those. That's how I saw it.
No, so you're more than just a pretty face, eh?
With 7 kids.
Pretty face.
Maybe one causes the other.
I think I'll drink to that.
Sorry, you're about to say something.
I've never been
Serious.
associated with pretty, but I'll take it.
I think my question goes to, you know, we have a lot of these conferences and congress.
Some call them talk shows.
talk shows. Do you see any benefit?
I do. A lot of the benefit has to do, I think,
Would you encourage somebody to come?
absolutely.
He earns a
Absolutely.
living from it.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
No offense taken. But I would encourage people to come because everything is driven by the quality of representation. You may remember me saying that the representation we have here, and I do a lot of conferences, is unlike many others. There are people here who've been associated with the CZI for well over 30 years. Their commitment alone says something for me. These are people that I have looked up to and that other people continue to look up to. And these are people who are the, if I may put it that way, the power behind the power.
And how many of them have 7 kids?
Well,
Okay, but I mean, speaking of that, so this one's been held in Harare.
Yes.
Probably the first important conference held in Harare since independence. And you've been to a lot of
that's
these
stretching it.
talk shows. Yeah, well, we're having drinks.
Since COVID.
You've been to a lot of these shows in all these resort towns. Is it any different? Is this
Having
this
it in
better?
Harare, yeah.
Well, having it in Harare, I think, is also a consequence of what we've just come out of. You know, this whole pandemic situation. So, in part, I'm sure, were it not for that, they would have gone outside of Harare. But it works because this particular situation in which we are works very, very well. It's within Harare, but at the same time, it's outside Harare.
It's got a resort vibe.
But do you feel it's more serious or less serious?
No, more serious, because let's
convenient.
face it. It is serious. The issues that we're confronted with are serious, and what I sense is that we have moved beyond polite commentary. And while I wouldn't suggest that it's outright attacking, we're certainly more assertive. That's what I see from the various speakers. And assertive isn't bad.
So
it's a good
I
place.
like that you bring that up because the CZI did issue a statement a few weeks ago, which was quite strongly worded regarding some policy action that they were not happy with, that they felt ought to be adjusted to be more business friendly. And I think, for me personally, one of the biggest criticisms I've had of the Zimbabwean business community is that it has been too timid most of the time
Yep.
in addressing some of the issues confronting the economy that are not the least bit political.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, what do you think has changed? Why are we seeing at this point in time the business community being a bit more assertive in its views around what's not working in terms of economic policy?
I would put it down to one thing, essentially, and I think that we are witnessing a better case for relationship management. Yeah, I think these guys have been very deliberate about developing trust with those in power, and over time have earned the right to express themselves as assertively as they are doing without unnecessarily upsetting people. It's probably also fair to say that the current establishment is probably a little more welcoming or better able to absorb
Criticism.
criticism
Okay.
than perhaps what we've witnessed in the past.
I wonder, would we have Friday drinks in the previous regime?
I wouldn't be part of it.
Might not have lasted beyond this episode.
True.
Well, you lost it at ZBC for a while.
Yeah, I know, surprised everybody.
But I guess you just read what they told you to read.
It worked. But look, in fairness, I think that it was a very different time. The media space was nowhere near as democratic as it is now. I think just the sheer number of forces, technological forces, that we're all dealing with today means that the idea of control is
Doesn't work
futile.
anymore.
It just really doesn't work. But what's clear is that character does work. And again, I go back to why you were suggesting that business may be in a more solid position with government today, is because there are people who've made it their business to develop their characters in such a way that they themselves carry more influence with those in power. And it matters. It matters to have a good brand.
So, that's interesting. And perhaps you just want to turn that around and look into the camera. You're good at that.
right.
And turn that into a point of advice for younger business people like ourselves.
Media space, social media, where you see it going.
Younger people like yourselves. Well, I was young once.
You still look
And I'm
quite
not so
young.
sure we're young.
Yeah.
we
We're
got-
not classified as young
No.
anymore.
I said younger, but we got more hair than him.
Okay, yeah.
No, that's also true.
That counts.
What would we tell the younger business person? Well, the whole idea of personal branding really boils down to acknowledging that all business today is driven chiefly by globalization. You know, we are not in control. So if you are going to succeed, you have to be able to sell well. And selling well is about how strong your personal brand is. So how to develop that brand is absolutely mission critical. You know, you just cannot, because it's what it's one commentator called it. They called it the tyranny of choice. I think I'll just use the US market as an example, where he suggested that in the US market alone, there are over 2,000 brands of water. How do you stand out in a crowded market is what we're talking about. And how you stand out is using strategy, and that strategy is about building your brand. And I think young people invest a lot in their capabilities, and rightly so, but I think it's equally important to develop your character. What do you stand for? How do you become a thought leader so that when you stand up, people associate you with that one thing, that you are a leader in this area, and you become more credible, and as a result, you gain a stronger following.
Deep. Who would have thought, Patrick?
Hey, what can I tell you? A free drink helps. I had one in a while.
Well, there you go. We are winding up the first day of the CZI Congress. And we've had quite a few people on the show who know what they're talking about. And we hope you take them seriously, and some of the things you've heard figure into your thoughts. I think one of my key takeaways, gents, and I don't know what you think, is I'm a little bit surprised at the positivity in the air. Perhaps we're stuck in our own negative echo chamber, and positive things are going on elsewhere.
Well, I'm not so sure about positivity, but I would capture it as a willingness to engage. And I think Patrick, put it more succinctly than I will ever do. But I think it's this idea that we can change things, and if we engage, then it's very possible to change things, despite the odds.
So Tinashe basically saying he's a bit more optimistic.
But you know what, guys? You may be young. It's not a crime.
Younger.
But clearly,
Younger, not
clearly
young
this is
anymore.
solid. Clearly this is solid, and I appreciate this platform. And carry on with it. It's all about engagement. We grew up in a time that was all about talking, but now it's all about engagement.
Wise words.
Well, thank you for coming along, Patrick.
Yeah.
Maybe I should
you.
have 7 kids.
No. COVID
out
is real. Stay safe. Be good. If you can't be good at it.